live. This is the 90th Coffee with the Commissioner event. We're live streaming this on Facebook, and I appreciate everyone waking up early this morning. And we got a lot of stuff to discuss. There's been a lot of news in the media about public safety, EMS in particular. So anytime there's questions from citizens and others, we have a great outlet here. We have technology. We can have a live meeting on Facebook, and we can bring in the folks who know the answers to the questions that you're asking. So I appreciate everyone participating. These are great opportunities, and I've told folks if you have questions, you can send them to me on Facebook or you could email them. I've got a list of questions, and we're going to start out with introducing the folks who are on the call this morning. Of course, Wes Marino needs no introduction. He's our county administrator. Good morning, Wes. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Commissioner.
All right. Eric Gilmore is our Director of Public Safety. Good morning, Eric. Thank you for waking up early and getting here.
Good morning, sir. Glad to be here.
And then David Torcell III is our Chief of EMS. He runs the division, and we appreciate all his hard work and for him being here this morning. Good morning, Mr. Torcell.
Good morning, sir.
Right on. Outstanding. Well, gentlemen, what we do is we typically give a little update on county business, then we jump into the meat of the topic. So, Wes, I know there's a lot going on in the county. There always is. I saw some great press releases on Pensacola Beach yesterday. Wow, great work out there. We're doing a renovation on beach access number 2 out at Perdido Key in District 1. I mean, there's just a lot going on. Tell us what we got going on.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of good press lately. As far as our hard work that we're driving on the projects, 100 million last year, 15 million, 16 million on Pensacola Beach was recognized yesterday. It's been really great having Casey Lagarde on board to help us tell our story. All the things that would normally not get out there to the press, and it's just the nature of the beast. It's not anybody's fault. It's just how it is. But she's been driving hard to get our story out and tell all the good things that's going. One of the other press releases that we got over the weekend or earlier in the week was Project Reconnect with the homeless initiative that we're working with Ministry Village there with Olive Baptist Church.
Yes.
And, the PPD has some social worker type officers, and I think Chip Simmons, the sheriff, has some as well. And then we have our street teams with Travis Tompkins, who's out on the streets. And, if these folks have a support system elsewhere, family elsewhere, friends elsewhere, that they would rather be, that they feel like would help them get back on their feet, if you will. Well, we'll work through Ministry Village, and we'll send them via bus or plane, whichever's cheaper. And Ministry Village is just, they've been a great partner. They're really pushing the program. Scott Lunsford is making IDs for these folks. You can't go anywhere without an ID.
True.
And, we had the big event at the Bay Center a couple of weeks ago, and one lady got her ID, and she just started crying. She was so elated to have that ID because it means so much as far as benefits and opportunities. And those are the folks that really want help. And he's been a great partner in this effort. But we've sent our first folks. We sent 2 brothers, sent them to Alabama, and there's been a few other folks that have gone different places, back home, back to their families. And so we're excited about that. And with that comes, well, I want a bus ticket to Hawaii. Give me a plane ticket to Hawaii. Give me listen, we're trying to do the best we can with this effort, and to sincerely help folks who really want help. And if they can get help at home or back with their family, then maybe that's where they really need to be. So we've initiated that. I think you'll hear more about that as time moves on. We did the point time count. They're still figuring those numbers. I can't say enough for our community partners and Travis and EMS and the core program was involved, and just a big event. I think we'll see a higher number this year. And I know typically that means a negative connotation, but we're trying to get a true baseline so that as we move forward, we can really see the progress that we're making.
Hey, Wes, can I? You're on the homeless topic, and that's a real hot topic. I get a lot of Facebook messages. In fact, I got one last night from someone who's very, very frustrated. But I think that's an important story to tell, that we're engaged. We're helping with the point in time count. I know Liz Kissel has done a lot. Ministry Village Olive, Project Reconnect, sending, I think the board allocated $30,000 to help these folks get back home where they have a support structure. I know that we passed an ordinance to keep these folks from being in the middle of the intersection, distracting drivers. I know we're working with our legislative delegation over in Tallahassee to get some firm language, as it relates to folks camping on private property or public property. So, I mean, I think it's important to tell that story because there's a lot of angst in the community. A lot of my constituents are very upset. In fact, this gentleman sent me a private message yesterday on Facebook saying, we should name the library after you, Jeff, because of all the homeless people around there and, defecating in my neighborhood and this and that and the other thing. I mean, listen, if someone's in your neighborhood doing that, we have no control. Call the sheriff. Call the sheriff. That's what I told this guy. I said, we're doing everything we can. We're policymakers, right? We make policy. You can't stand in an intersection with a sign and distract drivers. The sheriff will enforce that. You can't defecate in public. That's criminal, right? So I think, Wes, these are important stories to tell. Also, let's talk about the litter pickup. That's the other thing that we're working on, and you got your guys out there picking up. I know last year, how much did we pick up last year off the streets?
Oh, it was tons and tons and tons. I forget the exact number, but it was a large number. And we're on the streets every day. I told somebody the other day, there's not a day goes by that we don't have our grapple truck fleet out into the subdivisions, picking up things like couches and chairs and vegetative debris and tires. We picked up 2 loads of tires the other day that had been just dumped on the shoulder of the road. I'm talking about dump truck loads. I'm not talking about pickup truck loads.
That's crazy.
And so there's just a large amount of debris and litter everywhere. I'll say it all the time. I don't really get it. I went to my local fast get your cup of tea and run store the other day, and I cleaned out my truck, put it all in the trash can. It's right there waiting on you. Clean it out, and you start over. So I really don't get it, but it's a thing. So we spend a lot of effort and a lot of time picking up litter, trying to pick up trash, trying to. I can't imagine what it would look like if we didn't. I would just say that it would be horrible.
Well, and a couple of things, and I've mentioned this a couple of times. Maybe we need to explore it. Tarping the loads before we take them at the dump. I've talked to people. I go, what do we do? I live on 9 Mile Road, and I've watched cars go by. I've watched ECUA trucks go by with stuff flying out the back. I hate to say it, I've watched our county transfer trucks go with stuff. And I know we tarp those loads, but I've seen stuff flying out. So we got stuff flying out. But the citizens, I think what the citizens need to know is this: the state legislature and state law preempts us from really having a draconian policy on individual litter bugs. In other words, you go to other states like California, the roads are clean because they'll charge you $500. You throw a bag of Whataburger out the window in San Diego or Los Angeles, you get pulled over, you get a $200, $300, $400, $500 ticket, and you pay it. We can't. People go, well, do it here. Well, we can't. The state doesn't let us do it. So I'm working with Michelle Salzman on getting some language like that. I mean, the state should allow local jurisdictions that have these issues, let us determine it. Home rule. Let us figure it out. I tell you this, as a commissioner, I'll make the motion to make it a $500 fine. I'll work with the sheriff, and a couple people get caught throwing their Whataburger bag out the window and get a stiff fine. I think the problem ends. Oh, and trucks go by with stuff flying out the back. They get a ticket. I think they start tarping the loads. So a lot of these things we can't do because we're handcuffed by the state legislature. I think it's important to tell that part of the story. And I'm going to keep saying that as long as I can until we get something passed. So I didn't mean to hijack your thing, but I know what people are screaming in my ear about. I'm going door to door and I'm hearing a lot of it. So I want you to.
I hear it as well. I do.
What else we got going, Wes?
We just have a lot of things. Michael Rose in Parks is quite just knocking it out of the park. He's been having some meetings with the SEC, and they're making plans for future tournaments there at Brosenham. There's some design meetings, conceptual meetings going on about a future facility at Brosenham. And we met with Sunbelt Conference last Friday, I think it was, or the Friday before. And we're giving them a list of upgrades that we're going to be bringing to the Bay Center. We're hoping to get an extended agreement with them for the Sunbelt basketball tournament. And just projects everywhere. John Robinson, bless his heart, over there at Animal Services, he sent me a text earlier in the week. He said, listen, we're opening up earlier today because I got employees out, and we're short-staffed, and we're just overrun. But, when you go meet with John Robinson, you're going to get nothing but positive, optimistic attitude from him, and he's working hard, and his people are working hard. And that's what it takes to be successful. You got to have people around you who are willing to get in the game and get with you and work. And that's what he's got going on over there. Development Services, Horace and Drew and company over there, more subdivisions than ever, building inspections, more permits issued than ever before. Things are not slowing down anywhere. Pensacola Beach Public Works, I mentioned them yesterday. You know, you got a small contingency of folks out there that are quietly just knocking it out of the park, getting projects done, keeping the beach clean, keeping it what it needs to be. And of course, you always have the road department and then Public Works doing the things that they do. They're a little more visible. Um, Engineering again is just driving work out the door. I've never seen work go out the door like it's happening right now. I mean, ever. And I've been here a long time. And some of that's engineering, some of it's procurement and purchasing, and Lindsay Stevens and that group downstairs. They're just quietly knocking it out of the park. Even our legal department, they're wide open as well. You go over there, it's just wide open, and everybody's everybody's working hard. Everybody's driving hard to be successful, and that's what it takes for us to be successful. But you always have some things that are always waiting in the wings. And I know there's this thing with EMS as of late has been a little bit of a talking point. And Dave and I stepped into this role about the same time Dave came on board in his role, and it wasn't long. He did his assessment, and he and Eric called and says, "Hey man, can we come talk to you?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I met Dave, and they said, "Hey, we got a problem over here. Our employees are being sniped." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, a neighboring agency is paying $1 more an hour, 50 cents more an hour, whatever it was, and they were sniping some of our paramedics and EMTs." I said, "Well, what's the plan?" And Dave had the plan. And, I like leaders that when they come in, we got a problem, but I have a solution. And you got to have a plan. You can't just say, "Well, I got a problem. Here's the problem. I'll see you later."
Yeah, that's what a leader does. A leader doesn't just come and dump the problem on your lap. The leader comes and says, "Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what I think will work. What do you think?" Yeah, we all have a problem. Yeah, that's not helpful when someone just dumps something on you. I want to hear how are you going to address it. So I appreciate
He laid out the plan. He and Eric laid it out, and just as we've done in other departments, first thing we did was increase wages and entry level rates. EMT went from 1504 to 1833. Paramedic went from 1912 to 2532. Storekeepers from 1299 to 1522. MT relief from 1504 to 2024. Paramedic relief 1919 to 2741. Those are significant pay increases.
In what time period, Wes? Over the last 3 years? Is that what that is?
That was about 2 years, 8 months ago, quite honestly. Maybe not quite that long ago. It was shortly after I stepped into this role and David got here. And, EMS was on fire. I mean,
I remember.
And I know Eric does. It was on fire.
Yeah.
And so, I brought this initiative to the board and 100% support from the board.
Yeah. I remember, we had employees being poached. I remember at one point, I saw a flyer and they were offering across the river at the other county, they were offering like sign-on bonuses and all these other things. And what I always said was, look, we can compete hourly wage, but they can't compete with us in our benefits package and a pension plan, right? A 401k does not touch a pension plan. You tell people that, but people are going to chase 30 pieces of silver. They're going to chase money. When I came on the board, public safety, you talk about, just globally public safety, we had just done a huge settlement with a female firefighter. And then shortly thereafter, we had, an issue where we had an employee that was pointing the finger at a bunch of other employees, running them down, tried to run them out of their careers, really, really leaned on this one guy over some innuendo and some hearsay, and essentially ruined his career, wrecked his career. That cost us another $200,000 to solve that one. So there's been issues ever since. And I've felt like we've been on track. But, this letter, like I told the News Journal and Channel 3 when they called me, the letter hit me by surprise. I mean, I knew there were some days where you hold calls. I knew there was these other things. But I'm just glad, Wes, that you're open and transparent. You could have told me, "No, Commissioner, I don't want to come on the show, and I'm not going to have my staff subjected to questions." So I appreciate that. And I think everyone will appreciate that. And I love the opportunity to tell both sides of the story. It's easy for someone to send a one-sided letter out with vague inferences and accusations and unsubstantiated platitudes and claims. And and try and run a man down. So I'm glad David Torcell's here as well. I can't wait to speak with him and get his side of the story. But anything else, Wes, before we move over to Eric?
Jeff, I've heard a lot of things this past couple of weeks, and I'll say this: one tool that we have in our toolbox that has proven to be extremely valuable over the last 3 to 4 weeks is our Samsara GPS software. It's in all our vehicles. So when somebody goes, well, this vehicle was doing this, or this vehicle wasn't here, or this vehicle was parked for 3 hours, or I was on this project site for 3 hours, turns out they were only there 26 minutes. It's valuable. So I went to the town hall meeting the other night. I listened. I heard the narrative that was being communicated. But I spent 3 hours yesterday morning in the Samsara software, looking at tracks, looking at GPS coordinates, dates, times. And, I wasn't trying to work against anybody, but the facts are what the facts are. And the narrative that was being told at the town hall did not prove out to be what the software represents. So, I can't help that. I'm not trying to work against anybody, but the facts are what the facts are. So if we're going to tell a narrative, I don't mind the narrative being told. If we got an issue, let me know. But when I go to look at it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's an ambulance here at this time. There's an ambulance here on this date. There's an ambulance here on this date. There's also one in Century on this date. There's one in Century on this date. And you watch the track, and they transport to a hospital, and then they go back up north. And there was one date where we transported to a hospital, and we had some calls, almost around the block. So, yeah, we grabbed those calls while we were there. And then we went back up north. It is what it is. I don't mind concerns, factual concerns, and we'll work through those. But what's difficult is chasing a false narrative. And what's difficult is when we have a plan, and EMS is a business. We have a business model. And I was excited. I met with Eric and Dave just maybe the week before last, I think. And to hear the plans that are being worked on and going to be coming to fruition, some in a very short amount of time, you're going to see a huge success there at EMS and public safety. We have 8 ambulances on the way. I can't help how long it takes for these ambulances to get built and delivered. The board approved 18 new positions in EMS. 18 new positions. That's huge. That's a lot of payroll.
Yes, it is.
Supported. And, we're coming up on the next budget cycle. We have 8 more ambulances in the queue being built as we speak. We're moving forward. We have the plan. I think it's a good plan. And I strongly feel we're going to be successful. Me, I'm going to be successful. We're going to do, and if we need to shift, we need to modify the plan, we'll modify the plan, and that's okay. But we have a plan. What I'm not going to do, what's your plan? Oh, we don't want that leadership anymore. Okay, what's your plan? We don't have a plan. We just don't want that leadership anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's not going to happen is we're not going to go backwards. Not in EMS, not in public works, or any other department. We will not go backwards. The tail will not wag the dog. We cannot have that.
Nope.
So
Wes, I appreciate
that's where I'm at with it. And I'll let Eric and Dave, they can tell the real story and the true story, and we'll move on.
No, I appreciate that. It's very easy to go out and try and damage someone's reputation. It's very easy to tell a lie. It's very easy to say things that are vague, inconsistent. Maybe, there is some truth to some issues, and then to magnify them and amplify them for effect. But, I know one thing: when you have a person who's performing and a person who's holding his employees under him accountable, that person will have complaints filed. I saw it when I was on the school. Principals that had the best running schools, I'd have teachers calling me and this and that and the other thing. I've seen it at the base, and I've obviously seen it within the county in other departments I won't mention. People constantly, lobbing grenades, and it's typically, frankly, oftentimes I've found in my experience, it's people who are poor performers and they're being held accountable and they don't like it. So, but if there's issues, obviously I'm going to look into them. And we did have an issue with a paramedic, and and we as a county, now I'm not implicating you guys, you were not in the positions that you were in now, but we didn't follow our own county policy. And I stood up for that young man. He had his career wrecked. People lied about him. They tried to ruin his career, take his license. He was never convicted of anything. He's still a practicing paramedic, thank God. And, what we did wrong to him cost us tens of thousands of dollars, a couple $100,000 in a settlement. And anyway, so we got to look at both sides of everything. So that's why we're all here today. Eric, give us an update on public safety. How are we doing on our billets in fire and in EMS?
We're doing good on the billets of fire. I mean, we got our cadets going through the program. We hope to get those guys graduated and out of school and completed sometime this late spring. And that'll put additional crews out there in the field, beefing up some of the stations out there. I got to say, the past couple of weeks, our fire guys, the fire crews out there in the field have made 2 saves out of a burning structure. That's, there's fire guys that go through their entire career and never make a save or anything, but we're having that frequent of fires in this county, and the people are still, they got no smoke detector. They got no, they're asleep, but the guys have made 2 saves, and they're going to do a little bit of I wouldn't say it's not a press conference, but this Friday they're going to do a piece to put on air to talk about those 2 saves that we had within 2 weeks. And that's phenomenal. So I commend those guys and the training. And
let's plug that. I got that email yesterday. Let's plug that. That's going to be at the fire station on W Street. Which
on W Street, on Brent Fire Station on W Street. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And it's open to the public. The public can come and watch.
No, I think we're going to do a close side. I think we invited you guys, the commissioners, everybody, but we're going to put it on air on ECTV. But we're also going to have the media get it out as well. So,
awesome.
Because those 2 saves were an absolute team effort with the fire guys getting on scene, doing their assessment, making first entry, a primary search, finding the victim, and then EMS right on the heels of them being there to receive the patient and had 2 good outcomes, which is phenomenal. So, I mean, it's a system that is in sync and works. And I was on the scene of the one in Cantonment that night, and everything just clicked. It just like everybody knew their role. Everybody did a good job. And, that's a testament. Talking to Chief Harrison, and we're talking about, the support that the fire department's been given, the trucks and equipment that we've got coming in, the level of training that our guys go get and are afforded to go get and take, and we do in-house. So it's Wes keeps saying, I feel like things are going good. We have some hiccups over here on the EMS side with, those are public, but we'll get through those too. Right. So we're here to keep our head down, trudge, and get the job done. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it no matter what's happening. I'm here to do a job. I'm here to do it to the best of my ability. And, when I'm screwing up, Wes will tell me I'm screwing up, and yes, sir, redirect. Or, Wes is pretty cut and dry on when you're doing something wrong. So, and I appreciate that about him. So, but no, public safety is rocking and rolling. I mean, we are really busy. And like I said, a lot of structure fires, a lot of EMS calls, and we'll talk about some of those calls and what we're trying to do to thwart some of those calls and some systems we're implementing to help out the system.
Hey, Eric, you're a modest guy. You've done a lot, but you've been a volunteer firefighter for how many years have you been volunteering and fighting fire?
Mercy.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
27 years. So yes, I've been doing it. So
that's amazing. But I've heard that from the folks in fire that we are one of the busiest jurisdictions. We are on a lot of calls. Why is that? Why is Escambia County an anomaly with fire calls?
To pinpoint one exact thing, I can't give you that answer. But here lately, the amount of fire calls we've had were due to electrical. We've had a lot of electrical issues. Shorts, sorting out people wiring their own stuff. Some of the older houses and everything. And during the winter, you think of heating sources. Well, we had some heating sources, but a lot of it's been electrical here lately. When we get called out, I think the one up there was electrical in Cantonment. I believe the RV one was electrical as well. Usually it's, temporary electrical sources that's not compatible with the wattage that you're trying to get. So, we just have a lot of fires. We really do. And it's just amazing. And, those fire guys get in a career and they go, I want to run fires. Well, they get in a station where all they run is medical calls and maybe a wreck here or there. But you come to Escambia County, you run fire calls. So anyway, we get quite a few of those.
Well, I know that we've also increased the pay and salary. I know for a while there, we compared to our other jurisdictions, I know 2019, 2020, 2021, and 22, we bargained with those guys and also the lieutenants. And I think as it pertains to our sheriff's deputies, our EMS folks, our corrections officers, and our fire, I think we're competitive. But I think I was talking to you, Eric, and we give a raise, and then it's like poker, or it's like an auction. Then the county next door raises by 50 cents. I mean, but where are we at? I know we're up near the top, right, in pay.
We're about to fill the billet. We're not there yet. When we do these cadet programs, and you've heard it from Chief Powell, when you put on these classes, you have attrition that goes through. Some people, they don't cut the mustard, they don't show up to class on time, so they get kicked out of class, or they can't pass the test, they get kicked. So then we think we've got it filled up, but then we lose some people. If I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this, I think we're around seven down is what I'm thinking right now.
Fire.
Yeah, and fire. So yeah. I know EMS. I think Dave, we pretty much filled all we're there with the EMTs as far as filling the bill of the nose, and I think we're down 8-9 paramedics right now is what I think we're at. So, but that's where we're at with those two. We're staffing. We're trying to get the lifeguards, as we talked about Perdita Key, trying to come up with a plan for Perdita Key. The board just approved 3 lifeguard towers to be purchased. So we're going to get with Bosch and see what the turnaround on that is. Excited to put something out there to keep, like I said, there's a lot of minutia out there that we got to wade through, but we'll figure something out. We'll have some presence out there. We don't know what it's going to look like yet with private and public beach accesses and everything in 4 isolated locations, but we'll work through that and try to get that identified.
Yeah. And Eric, you and I have talked about this, our team is out there right now reconfiguring beach access number 2, the restrooms being demolished. We're going to install outdoor showers, additional parking. The board just approved $3.6 million. We're looking at a parcel right now. There's just not enough parking out there for folks who want to visit our spots. But I believe between 2 and 3, we found that easement of 75 feet. There's a mile, 1.2 miles of beaches. I think, the natural location for one of the towers at least needs to be somewhere 2 or 3, because we can tell folks, we can direct them, look, there's not lifeguards over here, but if you're not a strong swimmer, you have young children, if you go to Access 2 or Access 3 and want to use those beaches, at least we have someone there. And like you said, I go to Pensacola Beach, I go to Perdido Key. Pensacola Beach, you got your guys roaming with the trucks, which is really, really good. So I look forward to the plan that you and Wes and everyone puts together on that. I know it's going to be an improvement. As everyone knows, unfortunately, we had drownings last year and some folks, and then someone gets in trouble in the water, and then someone say, I can get them, and they go out there, and then it's horrible. I still see that young man's picture, when I think about it. We're going to try and prevent that, and I know we got our flag system out there that we're working, but folks just got to realize this ain't a lake. I mean, this is dangerous. It might not even look that dangerous, but you get out there and you start fighting that current. I don't care how strong you are. I think we had a professional football player that nearly died out at Pensacola Beach at Portofino a couple years back. I mean, this guy was muscular. He was an athlete, and he almost died. So I'm looking forward to that. 2 quick questions before we really get into EMS. The Ambubus, I'm looking forward to a tour of that. It's ready to go, but not painted yet?
That's correct. It's ready to go, but not painted. And, just come on. We'll walk you through it. Show you what it says.
And I want a tour of that thing. I want to see that thing.
I want you to come get a tour of it so you can see it, take pictures of it. So anyway, come get a tour. It won't be pretty, but come get a tour of it. It's ready. So if we needed to go right now, we can fire it up, drive it down the road, put people on cots, and get them, get them out of harm's way. So
love it.
We do have that.
Got it all ready to go. It's rocking and rolling. The motor's going to crank when we crank it.
Yep, it is. Actually, we had to unfortunately fire it up a couple weeks ago because we suspect we had some transients trying to stay in it overnight. So we had to move it to a better secure location. So anyway,
those bus doors are easy.
They are.
They're easy to get into.
And it's a bus with cots, right? So I mean, you got beds on there. So anyway.
Oh gosh. Hey, so how many patients at once can we transfer in that thing? 7?
Is it 12 Dave, or 15?
Yeah, we currently set it up for 12 because we're going to have an oxygen bank in there, and we decided to utilize that space for the oxygen bank and for the providers to be able to monitor patients. It can go up to as many as 15, but we currently have it set for 12.
Well, that's fantastic. And that's an asset that nobody else has. Is there any jurisdiction near here that has such a thing?
Walton County.
Walton County has one.
A long way away, though. That's a long way.
It is. Yeah, they're regionally spaced, but there's only a few places within the state of Florida that have that particular asset for that. You'd be surprised how hard it is to try to find a paint shop that can not only fit a school bus to do the work, but there's rivets all the way down the side of the bus. It's
Yes.
extremely difficult for them to go in and do that handwork to prep it. And I even reached out to the school board and said, hey, how do y'all do your buses, and where would you be able to refer us to get this? And they said, well, ours are painted yellow. We just touch them up. We don't have to do all that. And I thought, oh, okay. So this has been a labor of love trying to get this bus in. And I think we've identified.
White? Is it white and red?
No, currently it's still of course the yellow and white, but it's going to be changed to our new colors. I kind of don't want to throw it out there just yet because it's a surprise, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I like. But we believe we have it set up.
As long as they're good surprises, David. We like surprises. As long as
no, you'll be very pleased when you see it. But we believe we've got it set up. I've been working with the body shop in Mobile, which is part of Ward International.
Okay.
And they seem to be the closest place that has a paint booth large enough and the capabilities to do the work on this particular unit.
Yes. Okay, two other quick questions. We're going to jump into EMS. I know Beulah, the brand new Bradshaw McNair station in Beulah, former Station 2, is very, very close. I drove by there, drove down the driveway there. Apparently, we're waiting for the doors. I'm very excited. When are we gonna cut the ribbon and move our firemen into that station, Eric?
I think last I heard we were around March. Is that? I think we're March sometime. Time frame is what we're anticipating. So we're looking forward to that as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. That thing's going to be that's a nice station. It's set up. It's nice. There's a lot of thought went into that.
Platform. We're gonna have a platform truck, a ladder truck.
We will eventually. Yes, not right now, but we're working on getting one in there. So we've got 2 more aerials on order right now that we're waiting to get in. So suspect one of those, and then Navy Fed's kind of talk to us and roundabout. So we're working something with those guys. And if they purchase one for us, then we'll take it and put it in there for them. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh boy. Navy Federal. Wow. You got me on a different topic now. If you haven't been, everyone watching this, if you've not been up to Beulah and to the park that Navy Federal constructed on their land that we sold them, you've got to see it. It's probably the finest park in this region. It could be the finest park in the state. It's incredible. And that's a testament to working together. The board, sold them the 94 acres with the express stipulation that if they build facilities for their employees, that they be open to the public. And Navy Federal, to their credit, has done that. But it's first class. I tell you, come out, drive 9 Mile Road. They have it's lighted, it's safe. They have security. There's any given time 30 to 40 kids playing basketball on those courts. There's pickleball. It's just incredible. So my hat's off to Navy Federal and to the team that negotiated that sales contract. And that was the Board of County Commissioners that did that. I'm blowing my own horn, but that park wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the way we negotiated. So that's a great. So are they talking about buying a truck for us? That's pretty amazing.
We're in talks. They've asked, would we entertain? Well, if they offered one up, we was like, yeah. So I mean, it's a no-brainer. But no, it's preliminary talks. But they've been good partners. We've gone out there and done drills with them. EMS has been out there. They've offered up a bay or an area to put an ambulance out there or in helipods. They've been great and working with those guys. Fire crews have been out there and done some training in their parking garage and some FDCs. So they've been a good partner. It's just a talk, and if it comes through, that'll be great. So that would help out everybody in that community. So, and
I've spoken with Rob Hogan. I certainly hope that he's working on the plaque, in dedication. I've sent him the biographies of Chief McNair and Mr. Bradshaw. Have you spoken with Rob about that so that we have an appropriate memorial for those folks?
Yeah, we're working on it now. Matter of fact, Rob engaged me. We talked about it yesterday, trying to get some pictures so we can get some stuff, so we can get some quotes and stuff like that. So I've been working with Rob on that. Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, because that's going to be very important. And I hope that we can do it along the lines of what the Navy did out at Building 633 after that tragedy. I mean, if you've not seen the pictures, look that up. There's pictures online of that dedication. It's a wonderful dedication to those men who were killed in that terrorist attack. I'd like to do something similar for Chief McNair and Dwayne Bradshaw at their new station named for them. Final question, Station 20. I know that's been a source of consternation. We've looked at modular buildings. We've been out there and assessed that parcel. Where are we at with that? I mean, and for folks listening, these things take forever. The Beulah Fire Station's replacement has been 8 years. It started the year before I came in office. We've been working 5 years on getting Station 20 replaced. So where are we at with the Navy on that parcel? Last I heard, last I know, it's still in DC. It went to DC, it bypassed Jacksonville. So DC, we're waiting on an answer from DC to come back to get us the property.
Okay.
That's it.
Incredibly frustrating because those neighbors lost their ISO rating. I mean, their rating
Yes.
and they're they all think it's my fault. I didn't close that station. Anyway, we're working to bring the new one in. As you see in Beulah, it's sometimes a 6, 7, 8, 10-year evolution, but the station in Beulah is going to open. The boat ramp on Lillian on Perdita Bay is going to open. That I drove by there too. That's incredible. That looks amazing. I think March is going to be a great year for the West Side and District 1. I'm looking forward to opening both those facilities. But without further ado, I'd like to, Eric, unless you have anything else, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Torcell, let him introduce himself and talk about what's happening in EMS.
No, I think we've covered public safety. I appreciate the time, sir.
Okay. Good morning, Chief Torcell. Tell us about yourself. What's going on in EMS?
Hey, good morning, sir. There's a lot going on in EMS. Obviously, what we've seen recently in social media, the things that are going on, and then of course the positivity that people tend not to focus on all the great things that have happened in EMS, at least that I can say in my time here that I've experienced with our crews. The first thing I want to say is it's been very discouraging over the last few weeks with the things that have happened and what's been put out there. I don't think anybody can understand the impact. The vote of no confidence, the other information that was put out there, those are things that, we're going to make clear on some things today. But the bigger piece is that a lot of these folks have gone out of their way. Specifically, for example, the wife of one of our employees made sure that this was spread all through the media in Alachua County, where I came from. My phone's been blowing up from people. And we did find last night on one of the national websites called EMS One, which is a nationwide EMS website, that it's already been put out there for that as well. So, that's how far disingenuous and defamatory statements will go if you allow it when somebody hasn't, you put information out there and say, here, look at this, but don't evaluate it for what it is and ask questions. Just look at what we're feeding you. And that's one of the biggest problems is the information is being put out there, but nobody's really asking the right questions to get the truth out there.
Well,
And
I had one question I've been asking because I've had people send things to me. I've had people hit my blog. I obviously that letter of no confidence was sent to us, and I read it and I asked a simple question. When you come to me and you tell me 99% of the employees think this guy's a sack of garbage and we don't have any, you know what? I want to know what that number is, because you tell me 99%. I'm thinking essentially everyone in the building is, and I asked the question, how many people voted? First of all, so let me ask you this: how many people are in that union? It's my understanding they don't represent all the people all the members, all the staff members over at EMS are not union members. Is that correct? What percentage are in that union?
So the thing for us is we don't know the actual percentage because there was legislation that was changed recently. It still encompasses firefighters and law enforcement, but they used to do direct deposits. And we know this from our collective bargaining agreements. They would do, direct withdrawal for union dues. So
Okay.
The county, having to do that through payroll, was able to determine that particular amount of information. But now that it's done manually and it's no longer done through direct withdrawal, the county no longer has any oversight over that. So determining those numbers of who have joined and who's gone through those processes, they don't know that information, nor do I know that information.
Okay, so there's no way to really know. So they could say it's all 120 people that work there now, or they could, but I asked them specifically, I said, well, okay, there was obviously a vote. Give us the vote tally. Let us know. I've heard from a couple different sources that it was 17 people total in the room. The vote was called to send a no confidence letter about you. And that one of the men stepped up and said, I'm not going to be a part of this, and said no. And 16 voted for it. But don't we have 128 billets in EMS? Don't we have 64 paramedics and 64 EMTs? 16 people is not 99%. How many people?
So it's not, and we don't know the true number either. There are a number of people that voted. It's my understanding after hearing more things going around, and I try to stay away from the negativity and try to just keep moving forward each day with what it is we're trying to do for EMS. Yes. It is my understanding that potentially there was an electronic vote that was sent out that would encompass more people. We've heard them and seen posts recently as many as 60 to possibly 70 people. However, we're aware of an entire shift just through listening that wasn't sent any of that information and knew nothing about it. So, there's all these different statements. I try to stay to the facts and try to stay the course rather than getting involved in a lot of what's transpiring, because it's the whole he said, she said.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's taking the high road is always the way to go. But look, I mean, when they're attempting to assassinate your character, like you said, they're sending things to your hometown, and we're used to it as elected officials. We get it all the time, but this ain't right. They shouldn't do this to our employees. This isn't right.
No,
And
it's not. I mean, even recently, and feel free to investigate this, since a lot of what we say is claimed as lies and whatever that we see on social media. We've made 2 reports already to the Escambia County Sheriff's Office for harassment because we've had a former employee that happens to be one posting on particular social media sites who's driven past our deputy chief's house early in the morning, taken photographs. He's messaged me. He's messaged one of our newest supervisors, and he's harassed his wife through messaging. That was just reported last week. So if that's a lie, well, then we've made a false police report, which would be a crime. So I encourage you to reach out to the sheriff's department and ask them what we've reported, because that's just taking something too far. If there's something you don't agree with, if there's things that you don't like, well, in some cases, hey, we all have our marching orders. That's a job. I would encourage you to find any employee that is 100% happy with the way everything's going, because there's always things we can make better.
and there is always going to be problems with a large dynamic organization. There always is. There will always.
Absolutely.
The question to ask
Absolutely.
is, are we moving forward? Are we doing things right? Are we operating by the book? Are we following policy? Are we modernizing our equipment? I know we are. Have we raised pay to be competitive? I know we did. I mean, we're doing these things right. But yes, and before we went live on this, you gave me a number that was really kind of staggering. A 9-year average of employee turnover. You said that we've got about 38 resignations per year on average for 9 years. That's an incredibly high rate of turnover. So when you put that in context to what they're claiming of losses over a 2-year period, it fits within the pattern of 9 years. And you also made the point to tell me that you're the 6th EMS chief since 2015. That's a lot of turnover, but your tenure here has already exceeded, tell me, how did you say that again?
So going back to 2015, you look at all the previous either chiefs or interim chiefs, and that would include, there was a period of time where they had the fire chief having oversight over EMS when there was not a person in place in EMS, but they all had oversight as the chief of EMS. My tenure as of today is 2 years, 8 months, and 14 days. I have been here nearly half as long as all 5 of the previous chiefs combined. So think about, and I'm going to affectionately say, the dumpster fire that I inherited when I walked through the door, where there's just all kinds of chaos. We had a mass exodus that was going on in EMS that I inherited walking through the door. Well, I would challenge anybody to say that in a leadership role, when you first come into a job, you're expected to make, immediate change in the first 6 months you're there. You're just trying to learn the lay of the land, figure out what's going on. What are our threats? What are our opportunities? What are we succeeding at? What are we failing at? What do we really need to change? What do we need to keep the same? And what do we need to modify? And those are the things that I did my first 6 months here. There were 20 resignations the first portion of 2021 prior to me, and 38 from the day I walked in the door until that December. And I know the county administrator remembers this very well. We had to go to him and say, hey, listen, in order to slow this down so I can figure out what's going on and make this better, we started offering a shift incentive for about the period of 90 days. We were paying employees $200 extra per shift on top of their overtime to come in and pick up extra shifts to help out, to make coverage, to try to, you put more trucks on, it means less calls per truck. It means better morale. It means better unit hour utilization. And that worked. And another piece that I thought was important is, you had asked the county administrator about those pay raises in the time frame. I can actually give it to you factually. I started June 1st of 2021. By March of 2022, which is 8 months on the job, paramedic pay increased $7.36 an hour, and EMT increased $4.58 an hour in my first 8 months here. That was between myself, the public safety director, and the county administrator. That was not through collective bargaining. That was me going on behalf of my employees saying, if we're going to make this, and I know that the county administrator remembers this, I said, listen, I know I'm new, not trying to be out of line, but it's important to understand we're going to recruit the best. We're going to retain the best. We got to try to pay the best. And I put a plan forward.
I know this, David. The board had a little something to do with that.
Well, that was the point is, we made the plan first to say, listen, does this seem reasonable and sensible? And then, of course, we took it to you all. It passed. It was phenomenal to make. It's the largest pay raise in the history of Escambia County EMS, period, the end. They've never had a pay raise that large, especially in an 8-month period. And I would challenge any of the citizens watching this to think back on their careers, regardless of where they work, and think, other than promoting really high up in the ranks in your organization, When did you ever get a $7 an hour pay increase in an 8-month period? You
Yeah,
never have.
It doesn't happen.
And that also does not include the additional 3% pay raise that was given October of 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners, and the additional 3% raise that was given in October 2023. Nor does it include the incentives that we pay for working night shift, $2 extra an hour on weekdays and $3 extra an hour on weekend nights.
Yeah.
So we don't have anybody making base pay unless they've just walked in the door. Our average pay is around $27 to $29 an hour. With incentives, and $26 to $27 an hour with the pay raises they've got. That is a phenomenal hourly wage.
No, and let me piggyback on that. Not only is that a phenomenal hourly wage, you get that, and you get a pension, and I believe do you get the high rate 3.3? Do you guys get the 3.3? Yeah, so you get the 3.3 multiplier on your pension. You come into the door at age 18 years old. Say you come in 18 years old, start as an EMS, work your way to paramedic. You can work a career of 30 years and you'll be in your late 40s, early 50s, depending upon how old you are when you come in, and you'll retire with nearly 100% of your pay. There is not one single private sector ambulance company that can offer that. Not even close. You're in a 401 subject to the up and downs of the markets. I mean, and our Blue Cross Blue Shield, I always have to be a salesman here, David. I'm sorry to do this, but I'm trying to help you here. Our Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance is incredible for a family. It's $139 every 2 weeks. You will not find that anywhere. So not only do we pay, we have great benefits, a state retirement pension. No one else does that. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I know a lot of folks, like we talked before we started, a lot of people chase an extra buck here, extra buck here, but you got to think long. You got to take the long view. If you got a family, you may not get rich. You'll make a good living. You'll get a lot of overtime. You'll make more than what it looks like on paper. That's for sure. But at the end of it all, you'll be in your early 50s and retired with 100% of your pay if you give it a go, right? I mean, am I right?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think we all understand is, it's hard to convince the younger folks, the young generation coming in, when you talk to them, like you said, those pieces of silver, that's what they see. What they don't see is the longevity. Ask me where you're going to be when you're 40. Ask me where you're going to be when you're 50. Ask me about your pension and your benefits. To convince a 20-some-year-old young person that may or may not be married and have children and have those additional responsibilities, that's really good pay. That's what you're looking at. And, they're for a period of time. The neighboring county was offering a $20,000 sign-on bonus if you were willing to, and that's a private organization. We can't compete with that. That's a private organization that's under the parent company of a larger $4.4 billion organization. I'm a singular county EMS system trying to compete with that, but I think we've done a very good job to put things in place that actually have made that happen.
Yeah, and now we're zooming through time. I got to ask you a couple quick questions. Okay, I get people that send me stuff and they say, hey, you're holding, X number of calls. I've talked to Eric. We've gone round and round. I've called him about specific instances where we're holding calls. There's always a rational explanation, but sometimes it takes a minute. My question on holding calls is I get it. And I think the average person does too. If you're en route to, say, someone who had something minor going on, and then you suddenly get a heart attack call right there, you're going to divert and you're going to triage, right? You're going to go to the highest acuity call, right? So that happens. But the question I have is, are we an anomaly holding 3 calls, 4 calls, 5 calls, or does this happen everywhere? I've heard recently, New Orleans, sometimes they don't even send someone, like no one ever shows up. Is this an anomaly? Holding calls, is it anomalous to Escambia County, or is this ubiquitous around the country in these organizations?
Absolutely, it is the latter. And I provided my boss in the chain of command some documentation that the very social media site had the wherewithal to post. It was from 2019, 2.5 years before I was even chief, where they discussed here locally about EMS holding calls. I wasn't even here for that, yet the narrative is being put out there that EMS is holding calls because I'm here. Additionally, I provided them with a news release that was from Lake County, Florida, Central Florida, where they had a complaint about an ambulance that took 1 hour and 22 minutes to respond to a call because of the overwhelming number of calls and the shortages of ambulances on the road. Now, we've dealt with the latter piece here by trying to add more FTEs. I'm the first chief in over 10 years to add and request through your approval and through the support of the county administration to add additional FTEs to this service. They've kept it the same for years. Even when the Walnut Hill truck was added in the north end, leadership at that time simply moved people on paper and went, look, we have a new truck, but they didn't ask for the FTEs. And we've been literally paying overtime for the number of years that truck has been in Walnut Hill. So that's not a very good fiscal responsibility when you're trying to operate a service. So it is not, just an Escambia County problem as some are saying. It is a nationwide problem.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I know we're doing a lot. We are adding chassis and we were the boxes, and I mean, we added the people, and you guys, it's an enterprise fund. You generate a lot of money, you generate a lot of revenue. Recently, Eric sent me a very detailed spreadsheet. So I have to ask this question. So after you boil it all down, we make money from Florida West. We make a lot of money on certain insurance reimbursements, but we get a lot of free rides. We write off a lot of debt. You guys are the experts. Does it make sense to keep the house function, or would it be less holding calls, less drama, less stress if we outsourced it? Honest opinion.
Now, I want to make sure I'm clear.
Brought in a provider like Santa Rosa. Would it make more sense to do that based upon what we're actually making? I know we charge $1,200, $900, whatever we charge, but when you look at what I got and I add it up, we're not making anywhere near that. When you average it out, would it make sense? Does it make fiscal sense to keep it as an in-house function, or would it make sense to outsource it?
So here's the first piece of that is you have to look at the operational piece. We keep regular track of the number of times that we've gone to Santa Rosa County in the past year for mutual aid, as well as our IFT division, which we've created as part of that interfacility piece, consistently picking up patients, specifically one last week in Navarre that needed to come to Pensacola for surgery that had been waiting over 18 hours because they didn't have any ambulances available to bring them here. So you got to think of the quality of service and the number of units that you're going to get when you think about outsourcing to private EMS. It doesn't matter if it's private or if it's a third service, as we're called. At the end of the day, it's how the organization is run and the number of units they had. Now we're almost almost 5 times as busy as the neighboring county is with our annual call volume. So it's not even apples to apples when, you see comments about how, they're maintaining all their calls. Well, yes, I do live in Santa Rosa County, as it was put out there. Yes, I do care very greatly about the citizens of Escambia County, but I will tell you that they're having the same struggles we are, despite what is being put out there. The overwhelming call volumes is what taxes everybody's resources, and you have to do the best you can to work through that.
So Santa Rosa County holds calls as well, I'm going to assume, or I mean.
Absolutely. And we have the mutual aid list to show how many times we've been called over there for mutual aid 911, as well as the number of times we've had to go over and pick up patients to come back here to our, medical community for services that they needed, but we're just sitting for hours at a time and unable to get them here.
Okay. And the other thing that I see a lot is they say you are prioritizing. I know that Florida West pays. I know the hospitals pay for the transfers from the standalone ERs to the main facilities. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, and what I've been told is that we have a dedicated crew that does that. But if there's a high level acuity call, a heart attack, stroke, that we will divert them. What's the story?
Yeah, so that's absolutely correct. And again, you have to get all the information out there in order for people who don't know operational sense and how this works to understand it. All they're saying is we've taken profit over patients. That is an absolute disingenuous statement. Number one is the system is so busy that how do you expect bed space is going to open in ERs at our local hospitals? We have ambulances, as you well know, that sit on the wall for hours at a time waiting for bed space. Well, those patients in the ER need to go upstairs to a bed where they're admitted. Well, how do you get them to those beds? The beds upstairs need to be vacated for discharges and transfers to other facilities. Well, how do you get those patients out? It requires ambulances that the neighboring counties do not have, as was reported. This so-called agreement that we had with the neighboring county EMS service to come over and do all those transfers, they don't have anywhere near the units to do what we're doing now with our IFT division. That's called throughput. And the whole purpose of that is it facilitates less people holding the walls, our ambulances holding the walls in the ER. It facilitates patients getting admitted faster, bed space upstairs being open faster, and those patients that need to go to long-term medical care or higher levels of care getting where they need to go. By the way, those are all also Escambia County citizens that they're, I guess they would be kind of talking disparagingly about, saying, well, you're being transported by an IFT truck. We should be focusing on 911. Well, we have to focus on both so that the entire system works the way it was intended to work.
And you said something, and you went past it real quick. And a lot of people don't realize this. And so I think it's important to really double back and expound upon it. Just because an ambulance crew arrives at the hospital with a patient, you don't just get to wheel it in like on TV and say, bye. You have to stay with that patient until they take him, right? And like you said, that's hours, right? And then after that, Then you got to take time to clean the facility, the vehicle out for the next call. So, I mean, we're subject when we're holding calls. It's not. They want to blame it all on you, David. They want to say it's his fault. It sounds to me like, looking at this, it happens everywhere. It's not 100% our fault. It's oftentimes it's the hospitals when they divert, right? They go on diversion. Sometimes I know they go on, that's not our fault when they divert and you suddenly have to go to a different hospital. So I just, my whole thing in having this coffee this morning and having you guys on, it's important to tell both sides of the story. It's important to tell the truth. And I just appreciate the candor, and I appreciate the job that you're doing. We were at a banquet the other day, and Sheriff Simmons talked about the number of overdoses. We all know we have a big problem. We have a big problem in Escambia County. We're number one in a category we don't want to be in. And he said we're doing 6 overdoses a day, right? They're not all dying, thank God, but we have an average of 6 per day. We have the most overdoses by population in the state of Florida. That puts a tax on your system, does it not?
It absolutely does. And, one of the things that was absolutely essential with our core program is some of those overdoses are the same repetitive patients, right? They have an addiction, right? So we've looked through our history on our transports of overdoses by patient, because that's something we do to try to figure out that data. There's patients we've transported as many as 16 times in one calendar year for overdose. So
right.
That's where the core team intervenes and helps with those processes to get them off of drugs, which eventually it may be a small piece, but it's just one more piece that helps for unnecessary calls, because if we can prevent it and keep people from having to go back to the hospital and being transported, we reduce those total number of calls coming to EMS for service.
Two quick things, because we're running out of time, but again, I want to reiterate my thanks to all of you for being on here. I think we're getting some good information out. Just very, very quickly, the protocols. I know the protocols in the past, they were outdated. My understanding, but prior to you coming and a little bit of time while you were here, we had the doctors from the University of Florida. My understanding is most, if not all, of those protocols are updated. However, it's a constant process, and that you're constantly modernizing them. And before you implement new ones, you have to do in-service trainings. Is my understanding correct on that?
Yeah, that's correct. What they fail to realize is the statements were made, and we follow what's put out there disingenuously. When a medical director takes over, and you have to have had this experience previously to understand how it works, and many of our employees, including those making, improper statements, have never been part of instituting emergency medical protocols. Just that piece alone itself, a medical director new to a system doesn't walk in the door and go, "Here's a 400-page book. Let's start doing it." It takes anywhere between 18 to 24 months just to go through the development of the protocols, the processes of how they match up to dispatch protocols and operational procedures. It's not just, here's cardiac arrest, do this, do this, do this. Here's a stroke, do this, do this, do this. There's dispatch protocols that match up to that you have to make sure. And when I walked in, all of that was completely discombobulated. Yeah, the other piece of that they don't realize is the protocols we were using, the format was copyrighted by the University of Florida. And unfortunately, when the University of Florida canceled their contract with us, we were not sure we were going to be allowed to keep the format we had, and we were going to have to go back and reformat everything we did. So the problem with that is, could you imagine not only what would be out there in the public and their reaction, but the crew's reaction if the old protocols we were working on changed to the new protocols, and then we lost the ability to keep them and had to switch back to the old protocols until we could come up with something new? That just wasn't going to work. So they're being implemented in phases. There's 9 total phases of each of the pieces. We've managed to take the old set of protocols, which is nearly 1,000 pages, that were mostly copy and paste, to the new protocols that I've worked with the medical director to develop under his practices and his processes, to now less than 400 pages.
Okay, but bottom line up front, we have a complete set of protocols in the field right now.
We've always had a complete set of protocols. When the new medical, there's this belief that when the new medical director comes in, they're supposed to go, "Here's my new protocols."
Right.
The new medical director can walk in, review the ones that you're using, and say, "I'm good with these until we start changing them to the new ones." That's allowable. State statute just says that the medical director has to have approved protocols. They don't have to walk in the door and write 500 pages of new protocols. I mean, that's just such a misconception that's being put out there that makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, a couple of quick things. Chapter 447 Florida statutes, we have unions. We do public sector unions. I'm not going to get into my personal feeling about them, but we understand they have the right to do what they do. But I know that makes it sometimes a little bit difficult, but it doesn't give people the right to lie about.
Commissioner, can I say one thing?
Yes, sir. You sure can.
Just because they are represented by a union,
Mhm.
it doesn't mean that an employee can walk in the door and act any way they want. It doesn't mean they can walk in the door and say anything they want to leadership.
That's
They
right.
still should be respectful and should be professional,
Absolutely.
and should always strive for the betterment of the organization.
Yeah.
You know, there's a misconception there, and we've been through this. I've been through this. I understand you're part of the union, but you're still going to conduct your business professionally.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 1,000%. And sadly, that doesn't always happen, right? We've seen examples of that, but people got to know Chapter 447 allows for these public sector unions. You know, the unions I like the coal miners union, yeah, and in the private sector, right? But we deal with the laws the way they're written, and we operate within them, and we listen to when they say these things. Two quick things. There were a lot of allegations made in that letter of no confidence, and my understanding, Eric and David and Wes, is we're looking into each and every one of them. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, it is correct. I spent last Friday all day long over at EMS and Public Safety, meeting with leadership, meeting with at least a couple of EMTs and paramedics. When I left out of there, I got to tell you, I was pretty happy when I left there. The attitudes that I saw displayed, the words that I heard, were very supportive of Dave and EMS. And you know, I may spend another Friday over there this week, but I'll continue to spend time over there. I'll continue to ask questions. Okay, tell me what's going on, and you know, and I'm going to ask the people in the field. I'll spend some time with those folks too. I want to hear I want to hear it from your mouth. What's going on? Tell me what's happening.
I appreciate
positivity and support. Last Friday, when I walked out the door last Friday, I was really, really happy.
Fantastic. Final thing we have time for, guys, is the Blue Cross insurance interplay with the ambulance. I've had several calls on that. I know it's a thorny issue. It's an insurance issue, but to me, I get where the citizens are frustrated. Eric and David, explain why, if I have to take an ambulance ride, Blue Cross considers EMS, Escambia EMS, a non-network provider. Explain how that works and why folks have to pay these bills and the insurance isn't covering it.
Gotcha. I'll take that one. So that's the commercial insurance that we've had in Escambia County has been like this for years. So it's always been this route that all commercial insurances, we have no negotiated rates or in-network rates with any commercial. That's United Healthcare, that's Blue Cross Blue Shield, that's Cigna, that's all of them. The only negotiated rates we have is for Medicaid, Medicare. And so that, you know, they come in and said, this is your set rate. This is what we're going to pay you. This is what we're going to pay you for this ambulance ride, this ambulance ride. So that's it. So if an insurance provider wants to come in and talk about negotiating, so we don't want to go out and negotiate rates with insurance carriers. If they want to come in and say, look, we'd like you to be an in-network provider. And I think the problem with us being a one-off. So we're only Escambia County EMS. There's no other Escambia County EMS out there in the country. So
Right.
They would have to, all the insurance companies would have to come in here and negotiate with us all those rates. And if we did negotiate, then we'd have to negotiate with all commercial insurances. So we've never had that in the history of Escambia County. And be honest with you, some people had the misconception that when I call 911, I should be able to choose my provider. We're the only provider in Escambia County. You call 911, you get Escambia County EMS. It is our Escambia County fee schedule and our rates. And then when we bill you, we bill your insurance. We know you got insurance, we'll bill your insurance. It also depends on, have you made a deductible? Have you not made a deductible? Is it the first of the year? Where are you at in your year of deductibility? So we'll bill the insurance first, as we always do. The insurance pays what they're going to pay. So if I take a $900 ride and I bill the insurance and they say, insurance, I'm paying $600, and they kick it back to us and say, here's your $600, then we put the other $300 on the patient. So that's how they get their bill. Now, if the patient says, I don't agree with that, I think you should rebill it again, or Blue Cross should have paid more, we do that. We will rebill again. And while we're doing that, unfortunately, in the case where the lady contacted you,
Yes.
for some reason it didn't hold her up like it was supposed to. That's on us. We're looking into that. Why it charged her again? We will rebill and work with the insurance. We'll try to get you the highest payout from your insurance as possible. Our billing department does do that. But once they come back with their final decision, they'll break it. The insurance says, nope, we'll pay this. Patient pays this. And it's pretty clear on the billing statement. So then if you're having a hardship, let me get this straight too. If you're having a hardship and you can't do something, there's forms. We work with people.
Yeah.
We're not saying you got to.
Don't we do
Yeah,
payment?
we'll do. You want to do $20 a month? We'll do $20 a month. And guess what? We won't send you to collections. I mean, you're working with us. As long as you're working with us, that's all we ask. So
What do
we're
you
not asking.
say to people that say, I'm a taxpayer, this should be free? What do you say to them?
Well, so their taxes, honestly, so unlike fire and MSBU, where fire comes out and you paid your MSBU, fire's not going to send you a bill ever.
Right.
Our EMS system is a fee for service.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's an enterprise.
It's an enterprise. We do not ask the board for GR. So these
Right.
pay raises, the equipment, the new trucks, outside of loss funds to pay for the new trucks, we don't ask for GR funds. We have to generate the money, which is our enterprise account money, to put toward our system and build and grow our system is what we're trying to do. So
Right.
we're not trying to kill everybody doing it, but we have a billing fee schedule. We follow through with it. And I understand you pay taxes. I get that. But Escambia County EMS is a fee for service. When you call us, we come out. There's a bill associated with it every time because we're not GR funded, or we don't get tax money for our services here.
Okay. Well, with that, guys, we got to wrap it up. We went long today, but again, my hats off to each of you. You've got incredibly difficult jobs, and I appreciate.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, you
So,
may.
just real quick, I got 1 minute. So, since I've taken over here, I am incredibly proud of the work that we've done and the things we've implemented and the equipment and the stuff we've done to bolster public safety. It's come a long way in my tenure here, and I am proud of it. And it is due to the employees out there doing the right thing. We got a lot of great employees. Don't misconstrue that. A lot of great employees. I feel like everything's discombobulated in the EMS side, and it's unfortunate. We're trying to work things out. We're trying to get things better. And if everybody would just let's communicate, let's talk about it. Like Wes said, come talk to me. Let's talk about these things. I've sat down and talked with the union. I was working on some things, and all of a sudden they went and did that with Torcell, unfortunately. So I think Chief's doing a fantastic job. He's trying to we got plans in place. We're trying to get to the big picture where we've grown the system and we have more trucks on and more people on, and people aren't getting beat up day in, day out at nights and days. And we're not holding as many. We're going to hold calls. There's times when if I had 25 trucks on, we still hold calls.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. And we'll never have 25 trucks on at one time unless just something crazy happens. So anyway.
Well, gentlemen, appreciate what you do, the work that you do. I know the community does, and I appreciate you taking time this morning to, as Paul Harvey would say, to give the rest of the story. And I'm glad that we have the ability to do that. So you all have a great rest of the week, and appreciate you being here. And for everyone who made time to stay on the call today, appreciate you being on there. I'm sorry I couldn't take any questions. We had a load of information, a lot of people watching, but this will be made available on the county's website. And I'm certain that the media will report on some of this as well. So we appreciate everyone's time. Have a great rest of the week.